Welcome back to the Godpill. Today begins my coverage of the works of the first century Alexandrian Jewish philosopher Philo of Alexandria, whose work was well regarded by Christians in the early centuries AD and is an influence on the Gospel of John. Philo and Jesus were contemporaries, and Jesus lived in Egypt for a portion of his childhood, so it remains in the realm of possibility that they knew each other at that time. In any case, I felt Philo was a very unexplored niche on the internet because many people reference or quote from him, but not that much of his work has been adapted to audio form. I've decided to make his work available to people in this format, starting with his questions and answers on Genesis, where it provides over 200 responses. So that output will be digestible and frequent. I'll make a video for every 10 questions and answers. I hope you enjoy. If you value this content, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, and donate if you are so inclined. On to the matter at hand. Questions and Answers on Genesis 1, translated by Charles Duke Young. A volume of questions and solutions to those questions which arise in Genesis. 1. Why does Moses, revolving and considering the creation of the world, say, "This is the book of the generation of heaven and earth when they were created"? The expression "when they were created" indicates, as it seems, an indeterminate time not accurately described. But this argument will confute those authors who calculate a certain number of years reduced to one from the time when it is possible that the world may have been created. And again, the expression "this is the book of the generation" is, as it were, indicative of the book as it follows, which contains an account of the creation of the world, in which it is intimated that what has been related about the creation of the world is consistent with strict truth. 2. What is the object of saying, "And God made every green herb of the field before it was upon the earth, and every grass before it had sprung up"? He here, by these expressions, intimates in enigmatical language the incorporeal species, since the expression "before it was upon the earth" indicates the arriving at perfection of every herb and of all seeds and trees. But as to what he says that "before it sprung up from the earth," he had made every green herb and grass, etc., it is plain that the incorporeal species, as being indicative of the others, were created first, in accordance with intellectual nature, which those things which are upon the earth perceptible to the outward senses were to imitate. 3. What is the meaning of saying, "A fountain went up from the earth and watered all the face of the earth"? But here the question is how it could be that the whole earth was watered by one fountain, not only on account of its size, but also because of the inequality of the mountainous and champaign situations. Unless, indeed, just as the whole force of the king's cavalry is called the horse, so the whole multitude of the veins of the earth which supply drinkable water may perhaps be called the fountain, inasmuch as they all bubble up like a fountain. And that expression is peculiarly appropriate, which says that the fountain watered not the whole earth, but its face, as in the living being it waters the chief and predominant part, the mind or the countenance, since that is the most important part of the earth, which can be good and fertile and productive, and that is the part which stands in need of the nourishment of the fountains. 4. What is the man who was created, and how is it that man distinguished who was made after the image of God? This man was created as perceptible to the senses and in the similitude of a being appreciable only by the intellect. But he who in respect of this form is intellectual and incorporeal is the similitude of the archetypal model as to appearance, and he is the form of the principal character. But this is the word of God, the first beginning of all things, the original species or the archetypal idea, the first measure of the universe. Moreover, that man who was to be created as a vessel is formed by a potter, was formed out of dust and clay as far as his body was concerned, but he received his soul by God, breathing the breath of life into his face, so that the temperament of his nature was combined of what was corruptible and with what was incorruptible. But the other man, he who is only so in form, is found to be unalloyed, without any mixture, proceeding from an invisible, simple, and transparent nature. 5. Why is it said that God breathed into his face the breath of life? In the first place, because the life is the principal part of the body, for the rest was only made as a sort of foundation or pedestal, and then life was put upon it as a statue. Besides, the sense is the foundation of the animal form, and sense resides in the face. Secondly, man is created to be a partaker not only of a soul, but also of a rational soul, and the head is the temple of the reason, as some writers have called it. 6. Why is God said to have planted a paradise, and for whom? And what is meant by a paradise? The word paradise, if taken literally, has no need of any particular explanation, for means a place thickly crowded with every kind of tree, but symbolically taken, it means wisdom, intelligence, both divine and human, and the proper comprehension of the cause of things, since it was proper after the creation of the world to establish a contemplative system of life in order that man, by the sight of the world and of the things which are contained in it, might be able to attain to a correct notion of the praise due to the Father. And since it was not possible for him to behold nature herself, nor properly to praise the creator of the universe without wisdom, therefore the creator planted the outlines of it in the rational soul of the principal guide of man, namely the mind, as he planted trees in the paradise. And when we are told that in the middle was the tree of life, that means the knowledge not only of the creature, but also of the greater and supreme cause of the universe. For if any one is able to arrive at a certain comprehension of that, he will be fortunate and truly happy and immortal. Moreover, after the creation of the world, human wisdom was created, as also the creation of the world, the paradise was planted. And so the poets say that the chorus of musicians was established in order to praise the Creator and his works, as Plato says, that the Creator was the first and greatest of causes, and that the world was the most beautiful of all creatures. 7. Why in Aden or Eden is God said to have planted the paradise toward the east? This is said in the first place because the motion of the world proceeds from the rising of the sun to its setting, and it first exists in the quarter which it is moved. Secondly, because that part of the world which is the region of the east is called the right side, and that which is the region of the west is called the left side of the world. Moreover, the poet bears witness to this, calling the birds from the east dexterous, or right, and to those in the west sinistrous, or left. He is referring here to Homer, as Pope translated it. Ye vagrants of the sky, your wings extend, or where the sun arise, or where descend, to right to left unheeded take your way, while I the dictates of high heaven obey. When he says whether they go to the right to the day and to the sun, or whether they go to the left toward the dusky evening. But the name Eden, when rightly understood, is an indication of all kinds of delights and joys and pleasures, since all good things and all blessings derive their beginning from the place of the Lord. Thirdly, because wisdom itself is splendor and light. 8. Why did God place man whom he had created in the paradise, but not the man who is after his own image? Some persons have said, when they fancied that the paradise was a garden, that because the man who was created was endowed with senses, therefore he naturally and properly proceeded into a sensible place. But the other man, who is made after God's own image, being appreciable only by the intellect and invisible, had all the incorporeal species for his share. But I should rather say that the paradise was a symbol of wisdom, for that created man is a kind of mixture, as having been compounded of soul and body, having work to do by learning and discipline, desiring, according to the law of philosophy, that he may become happy. But he who is according to God's own image is in need of nothing, being by himself a hearer, and being taught by himself, and being found to be his own master by reason of his natural endowments. 9. Why does Moses say that every tree in the paradise was beautiful to look upon and good to eat? He says this because the virtue of trees is of a twofold nature, consisting in bearing leaves and fruit, one of which qualities is referred to the pleasing of the sight, the other to the gratification of the taste. But the word beautiful was not employed inappropriately. Indeed, it is very proper that the plant should be always green and flourishing perpetually as belonging to divine paradise, which as such must be everlasting, and it is fit too that they should never degenerate so as to lose their leaves. But of the fruit he says not that it was beautiful, but that it was good, speaking in a very philosophical spirit, since men take food not only because of the pleasure which it affords, but also because of its use, and use is the flowing forth and imparting of some good. 10. What is meant by the tree of life, and why it was placed in the middle of paradise? Some people have believed that if there were really plants of a corporeal and deadly nature, there are also some which are causes of life and immortality, because they say life and death are opposed to one another. And because some plants are ascertained to be unwholesome, therefore of necessity there must be others from which health may be derived. But what these are which are wholesome they know not, for generation, as the opinion of the wise has it, is the beginning of corruption. But perhaps we ought to look on these things as spoken in an allegorical sense, for some say the tree of life belongs to the earth, inasmuch as it is the earth which produces everything which is of use for life, whether it be the life of mankind or of any other animal, since God has appointed the situation in the center for this plant, and the center of the universe is the earth. There are others who assert that what is meant by the tree of life is a center between the seven circles of heaven. But some affirm that it is the sun which is meant, as that is nearly in the center between the different planets, and is likewise the cause of the four seasons. And since it is owing to him that everything which exists is called into existence, others again understand by the tree of life the direction of the soul, for this is that which renders its nature, and to the community of the parts of the body. But whatever is in the middle is in man the primary cause and beginning of things, like the leader of a chorus. But still the best and wisest authorities have considered that by the tree of life is indicated the best of all the virtues of man, piety, by which alone the mind attains to immortality.